I would say that I think that Africa presents some of the best opportunities because that's some of the best challenges also. And this is where the real impact and where change can be made on. We can take anything and then make it work. Yeah, the frustrations are there, the challenges are there on, but the same way too, it's very rewarding. When then I could have been. I mean, that was initially my plan. I could have been in the States. Just had a couple of scholarships and all that, and I wanted to be honest with you. But then I also know that this is where my greatest impact as a person could be felt on. I could change a lot of lives. With the little that we have done, we have touched almost lives of like, let's say 15,000 lives that we have been able to touch of various people through our programs, through what we do and all that. So if you look at that, that means the impact that we could achieve is huge. So I just want to tell folks out there, Africa is the place to be. It's not just by words, by action.
My next guest is a man who looked at Ghana's transportation problem and said, what if we just build the solution ourselves, right here? He's the co-founder of Kumasi Hive, one of West Africa's leading tech and hardware innovation hubs, and the CEO and co-founder of Solar Taxi, a company that locally assembles electric vehicles in Ghana with a workforce that is nearly 90% women. He built Africa's first locally made drone back in 2013, when most people in Ghana didn't even know what a drone was. He holds a degree in electrical engineering and renewable energy from KNUST, an MBA from Edinburgh Business School, and has consulted for the government of Ghana and international development agencies on digital skills and e-governance. He's a senior fellow at the Melton Foundation, a World Economic Forum, and he's one of the most important voices on Africa's clean energy and fourth industrial revolution conversation. Please welcome George Appiah to Africa Capital Connect. George, welcome to the show.
All right. Thank you very much, Kwame. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure. George, you have such an interesting background, and I really want to get into it, but I think first we should talk about where you were born, where were you raised, and what got you into entrepreneurship. I would love to hear your journey on that.
Yeah, so my name is George Appiah. I am the first of two siblings. I was born here in Accra. I think around Odoko in Accra. So it's kind of humble beginnings here in Accra. But I spent greater part of my early days through education at Samankese. I had to live with my grandmom. So I just did nursery one or so here in Accra, and then I went to live with my grandmom in Asamankes in the eastern region. It was quite not a place that I had thought of that I would go and live. It's like moving from Accra, and it's all this nice stuff that you have. Then moving to your grandma's place with no electricity, all sorts of hardship, if I should put it in that context on. So I was sad when I went there though. But yeah, over the years, I schooled there, completed my junior high school, my high school education. Then I went to my senior high school at Pope John Secondary School, Pope John's as we call it here in Ghana. I studied general science. Then I was able to study electrical engineering in KNUST. Graduated with that with first class honors. Then had a chance to do my masters. And through that, and that is what led to me starting my first company. Was on campus, but I can say in terms of my entrepreneurial journey, it's a story of me um, being curious at every stage of my life. I should put it that way. Because there at my grandma's place, I didn't have any form of entertainment. There's no light, nothing on. You're most of the time by yourself, by your books, and by nature. Because it was more like a rural town. So I get a chance to be thinking a lot, to be exploring my curiosity. And through that, I was able to discover a couple of things. And so I've always had that passion for trying to solve problems. So we're spending, like, for instance, we're spending so much money on candles because we don't have light, so we have to buy candles to study. And it's spending so much money. Kerosene was expensive. My grandma didn't have money much. So what I thought of was to be able to get all these used candles in the bowl, melt them, get a purple stock, the brown stock. It's hollow, so I cut that and I'll get a thread. So put it into a kerosene and then put it into that, and then I'll cast the candle back to try to rebuild candles, to recycle the candles so that I can use them on the day. I mean, so it's always about then trying to solve problems here and there with all the problems that you face day in and day out. You're trying to find problems here, solve problems here and there. But then, while I was also at university, at the senior high school, um, I then wanted to be a medical doctor. And it was something that I was going for. I mean, it is prestigious and all that. So, but then we had a chance to speak to somebody coming from KNUST, the university, and he mentioned that he was an electrical engineer and this is what he do. And looking at what I wanted to do, I didn't really fancy sitting in the office and just being a doctor and then just go to. I mean, you saw problems though, but for me, I wanted to do something that is more impactful, that reach millions of people. And I feel like I couldn't get to that path through being a medical doctor. So with that engagement, I decided then to switch to electrical engineering, and that is why I pursued that. In the course of pursuing electrical engineering, there come a point, I think that's the second term, where I realized that I have accomplished a lot, and but in terms of academics, but I don't. If I weigh myself in terms of practical stuff, there was nothing much on. And I've always promised my grandma that I was going to go to school and then come back and come and solve we not having light in our house for her. So I think, okay, can I really go back and do this? And I realized I know. So I kind of started engaging my course mates about, hey, why don't we start something that we use what we learn in class and solving problems? Yeah, I think some bought into it, so we started finding places to meet. It was quite challenging getting a place to meet on weekends. The whole idea was that we're going to teach ourselves, and then we were able to build products that solve problems in our society using what we learned on. So we started that. I called that group Creativity Group. It grew up to become very big. But then through that, we're able to solve problems, apply whatever we're learning in class to solve social problems on. And the group grew further on, went through to I completed school. I came back to continue to look at how do I support members of the school, because then I was a teaching assistant, so I could devote some time supporting the members on. But the idea was now we can solve problems because we will build wonderful innovations. We take them for exhibitions. People look at this and like, wow. Well, we build near space satellites, launch them into space to get pictures of the Ghana's space, see how it is, take data, weather data, climate data. We take all those data. We build smart doors. Then that was the early days of smart doors, but we could build a very complex system. We design a green transportation system for the university, build a model out of it. We build so many innovations for Greg, for health, for everything. Anytime we go for exhibition, people will come to us. Oh, I want to buy one of these. Oh, can I buy this? Oh, where can I find some to buy? I want this. This solve my problem. I want this. So we thought, okay, no, it doesn't need to end here because a lot of people want this, and for the only way that we can scale this then up was to be able to get into the market. And the way we can do that was to then build a business around that. And also by doing that too, we realized that most of our members were completing school, they leave our group and then they go and look for work. Or sometimes a job that they don't get. So but they have wonderful innovations that they could build as a startup. Hardware startups were not common in Africa. To be honest with you, most early day startups were all software. So it was quite Herculean task trying to build a business out of a hardware startup on. But we took it anyway. We decided to build a business out of that. We started this our second company. So that was K50 Group. So that was based on community innovation, student community innovation. So then we build an incubator, let's say a tech hub, as we call it, to focus on how to take the technology to the market. So rapid prototyping to take it to the market as a business, a startup. So we started that. We're able to build some of our startups to become some of them are now global. I also go global startups. I have to put it that way. But we're able to support a number of the innovations to get it to the market. With very good, successful story over these past years. And it's true that one day we thought about, okay, how do we solve the problem of transportation? Because in most African countries, to tell you a story on that, so most African countries, almost 70% of the economy backbone rests on transportation. The cost of transportation determine most of places inflation. So the idea was that if you solve the transportation problem, it bring down the cost of living for most Africans. So the increasing fuel cost, how do we come up with a solution that is more sustainable and affordable by the modern African? So that is what led us to build our first prototype. In a way of addressing that, we built our first prototype electric vehicle using local materials that we could get our hands on. We didn't have much money, so we could just borrow one or two stuff here, then we build a prototype. We initially we wanted to keep it as a low key project, which is most of the time what we do. We don't talk too much about what we do, but then the word got out, and then by the next time we heard, we're all over. Social media wasn't that big deal, but at least the word was out there that we have built this product and all that. So we had Mastercard Foundation reaching out. How they got our number, we don't know. But yeah, they got care of it. And then they are like, okay, you know what? We think this thing can create jobs. Let's call it green jobs. So we want to look into it. And mind you, this was early days of electric vehicles. Actually, in the continent, we're probably among the first three companies to start. So to look at this, okay, can create jobs. So let's look at how can we build this as a company. We took our time, did a good pilot, state the business models of how it can work. Then we route a pilot based on that, and that went very, very, very well. I mean, people didn't know the technology, but the benefits that the technology was offering was evident in people's business. So we used the value creation model to be able to engage people that, hey, I can tell you that this bike doesn't use fuel, but you will not believe me. Use the bike for a week, we will come back. If you still want it, you pay for it. Because if I want to talk to them about the technology, we are going to talk about it for a very long time. So we use that approach and we're able to get some of our early customers. They use the electric bike or electric vehicle for a week. You go back there, hey, I want to take my vehicle. They are like, no, 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 no. We won't give it back to you. Then the people begin to pay for it. We have a lot of orders coming through. So with that, we're able to scale based on the value that we're building with two-wheelers and we go to four-wheelers and then we're able to build the brand with it on. Now I'm happy to report that electric vehicles is now a thing compared to when we started 6 years ago. We have almost everywhere in policy. We have gotten government to be involved in that. The consumer acceptance is there. A lot of people now is being used for most ride hailing that's recently started deploying some in that space. So I mean it's a long story, and the short of it has to do with we moving from trying to find solutions and then building solutions that create value for people. So that is basically what we have been using technology. That is what we have been doing now as well.
George, so electrical vehicles is a thing of the, I guess, is dominated in the West, right? Um, so what does it mean culturally, psychologically for young people in Accra and Kumasi to see that an electric vehicle that was actually assembled by somebody who looks like them, who's from the same city as them? What is that impact like?
So I think it's come on different levels on. The early days, I remember we get into investment meetings with investing potential investors, and they're like, "Why do you want to build electric vehicles in Africa? Why don't you just import them?" we told them that here in Africa, it goes beyond providing value in transportation. It goes to create jobs. It goes to retain money in our economy, among other things, and also build a self belief fundamentally. So I think starting on that part of your question will be on the self belief that people see you doing this and then people follow. I mean, a lot of people that followed us, a lot of people that have been able to build a career by working with us on. There's a testimony to things like this. So we train ourselves. Some of the people that we started with now, they are very prominent people in the electric vehicle sector because we took them out of nothing, we brought them to train them and we were able to build them on. So it kind of people let people see what is there, and then the people also then begin to replicate our model. I mean, it is quite normal for a product like this that people will start them replicating a business model and all that down. So it kind of generate a new enthusiasm of what this could be, especially the approach that we took. And then the belief that we can also build these things ourselves. It was very difficult to sell in the beginning, but then we have always been a strong believer in that. And I think that has affected or impacted the perspective of the market. And even for policymakers, they see like compared to other countries, they see the EV industry as a way of adding on to the economy, not just importing vehicles to use, which we have been doing for years. But okay, how do we add on to the economy? How do we build a production value chain? How do we connect it with our resources like lithium and all that? How do we build that value chain that creates a more lasting and impactful business? So the perspective has changed through the approach that we used. People started with believing that we can build it than just importing.
You mentioned that it was hard in the beginning, right? What made it difficult and what changed that trajectory of making it believable for folks to actually start believing in what you're doing?
I mean, yeah, I mean, the people that we're working with were not high tech savvy in the tech world. They won't be what we you call early adapters people. Early adapters can hear about it on social media, Facebook, make a decision, reach out and purchase a vehicle. That is what early adapters will do. They are straightforward in dealings. The people that we started, we target to work with were more of those who were not tech literate. So going to talk about electric vehicles and saves you the climate and saves the environment and all that was not something that could sell easily. So we have to align with what sells with them. One, your cost of operation, your fuel cost is draining your money. It's taking almost like 2,000 cities a month. If you use this, you get to save 1,800 a month. Then they begin to see value. Then they begin to connect with what you are selling. And even in worst case scenario, let them experience it for themselves. Let them have it, try it, and then if you like it, let us know. If you don't like it too, that is fine. And when people experience it, the believability is there. So you don't need to. And then the more we get people to use it, the more now a lot of people see, oh, I saw your car here, I saw your car there, I saw your car there. So we used to get that message a lot. Oh, I saw your car here, I saw your car there, I saw your car there. So the more people get to use it, people get to try. We launch a ride hailing part of the business with both. And the whole goal was also to drive believability because with ride hailing, more people get to sit in the car than individuals purchasing the vehicle. So we get on average, you can get close to almost 100 people that could sit in a car in a day. And that means that people have experience of electric vehicles. So some people now become believers in it, and then they can tend to become your customer going forward.
You mentioned that you used a value proposition, right? Meaning you gave the vehicle to folks to try it out in the beginning so they could actually see that it works rather than explaining to them the technology behind it. Are you finding folks that are, well established to give these vehicles to? Because I asked that question because for me in Ghana, when I come there, I don't know if I'll give my electrical vehicle to somebody and I may never see them again, right? Because sometimes it's hard to find people with addresses, and how do you make sure that these are people that are gonna actually return the vehicle or make sure they pay you for the vehicle? How are you selecting those individuals?
Yeah, so I think that's true. I think we have tried to stay between innovation and being practical about some of this approach. I mean, the vehicle market is not entirely new. There's established old model that has self-improving. So you borrow from the knowledge of the vehicle market, how they sell, how they lease, how they do their things, and then you apply it to the new technology vehicle and see how you can also operate in the market. So yeah, for now, I think we don't have so much problem in terms of who we are leasing to, the vehicle to, and all that. We take the basic information that we need. We do our background work, some more other things, on so we are able to have clarity around that. So I think for in that perspective, we are able to build on the existing vehicle financing models that have been existing all these years. Used what works, and then you try to build on top of that, so that you can reach the target audience that you have to get to. But it's something that we keep on improving upon that approach. I don't know whether that answers the question.
Okay, no, that makes sense. George, can you take me through Kumasi Hive, how that became the hub of what really started Solo Taxi, right? How did you go from that to Solo Taxi? Was that the main purpose of creating Kumasi Hive?
Commercial errors mentioned earlier on is we set that up as an appendage to the community organization that we have built, student community that we have built on campus, or then on campuses, because we were in almost 6 or 7 universities, building communities of that end. But then Kumasa was supposed to serve as a pipeline where the innovators can take their idea to the market. So now we're looking at bridging innovation and business to achieve scalability, because to be honest with you, the only way innovation can scale is through a scalable business model. Other than that, no matter how wonderful your technology is, it will not going to go anywhere. And I think we have that a lot in the innovation sphere of in the African continent, where a number of wonderful ideas are coming through, but they don't never get to be on the shelf for a number of reasons. For a number of reasons. But then the Hive was supposed to serve as the central place where all the support can be given. So we help you to prototype because we have a maker space, we have technical people to support the prototyping. Rapid, we call it rapid prototyping. That means that the period that it takes for you to iterate upon the idea to get a product that you can take to the market, that's an MVP. We want to shorten that as soon as possible, as short as possible. Because if you then compare us to maybe China, US, Europe, the time it takes for an idea to move into a product sometimes could be just hours or days. But here then in Africa, it could take you months. If you're building electronic product, you may have to send your designs to China before you can get a board for your electronics and all those things on it. It was very depressing. So the idea is, how do we shorten this period, make it quick so that people can iterate faster, and that is the only way innovation grows. The iteration. Should be able to iterate as fast as possible. So the Hive was supposed to be a place of rapid prototyping, and then business support to take it to the market, build an MVP to take it to the market. And the business support was critical because we let you understand the fundamental part of the business. We let you understand who you are building the product for. So we were using design thinking approach to build a better sense of who you are building up the product for, what are you solving, the product you are solving, the value creation, so that you tailor the products to meet those aspects on. So we design our own curriculums, design our own program, design our own business model. We call it the base innovation model. I don't know whether we wrote some papers on it, but I think maybe we did. But yeah, we design our own model of how to take an idea to the market in a period of 6 months. And that is what we're using to building up the businesses that we're passing through. And so with Solar Taxi, it happened as we tried to solve a problem. Then we took it to the same process that we take our ideas through. Then able to establish the value. Then we're able to build a pilot. The pilot, and upon a successful pilot, we know that we have a business, we have a market that we could serve. We just have to build a business around that, and that is exactly what we did.
Why was it important for you to build everything in Ghana? Like, even given the timeline and how challenging things are and how difficult it is to get stuff done. Like you said, it might take a couple of days in US, China, but in Ghana it's months. Why is it so important for you to build in Ghana?
I mean, production take different phases. I think I've mentioned some of it. One of some of the phases: ideation, prototyping. All right, taking from having an idea and then prototyping it. Those things. needs to be as fast as possible. Innovation thrives on failing and learning. When the barrier to try an idea is huge, people don't create better products, or people don't even build the product. So we need to give people the tools for them to quickly prototype, and that is critical. And that has to happen in your local settings. And that's what it used to happen where we have to, for ideation to prototyping, we have to depend on getting everything from maybe China or Europe or US. So it takes you almost 2 months for your product, the part to arrive here in Ghana. And if you arrive and then it is faulty, you got to go back and try to rebuy another one, another 2 months on. And we went through several cases of that where you buy a tool or buy a material, buy a supply, a part of it, and then it comes and then it is faulty. Then it takes you another 2 months to be able to get that in. It is depressing, and it affects the growth of entrepreneurship. It affects the growth of innovation here in our continent. And so we don't need to build every part of it, but the early stages, like the ideation, the prototyping, to an MVP, especially even if possible, the first 100 units to the first 200 units should be able to be built here so that it can quickly be iterated in a very crude way. And then when we are okay with it, we now do what we call design for manufacturing. We put the design into a manufacturing state. So now we now do contracting. We can now do contracting of various parts, produce it in the thousands or produce it in the hundreds of thousands to then to supply. And that is the phase that you get into. That can be done outside. That can be done in China. Of course, in that stage, you are looking at more of your bottom line, the cost of product. When you are doing that initial first stage, you can make losses because you just want to test the market, see whether the market will accept your product as a commercial product, not as a free product to use, but use it and pay me. So you need to have that aspect. You can make some losses, but when you're designing for scaling, it has to be in a commercial accepted state, as you put that doing, and also need to be meet your bottom line. If we go because I'm building a phone in Ghana, I build it such a way that the phone costs 5,000 Ghana cedis or $5,000. Nobody will buy it, not because it was built in Ghana. Oh, buy my product because it was built in Ghana. The customer is not looking at that. Doesn't care about that. Oh yeah, yeah, we'll come to Facebook and like your page and we'll share. I will share. Oh, you are doing well. But when it comes to that, I have to buy a phone. I will not buy a phone for 5,000, same specification when I can get it for 1,000 cedis from China or somebody selling it across the street for 1,000 cedis. Nobody will do that. So you, the innovator, you are not designing that. Oh, people should come at regardless because I'm in Ghana. No, if you have policy level, that's fine. That makes it good. Even though sometimes people say that doesn't promote innovation, but you are competing against this, so you need to make sure that your bottom line is you meet your bottom line. And in that case, manufacturing at scale is the best thing to do. So I produce this part here in China, I produce this part in China, in Japan, I produce this part in India, but they do it in a large quantity that it is very affordable, very, very affordable. So when all I have to do now is to do the assembling here in Ghana, I put it together, I test it, then I can get to the market, probably cheaper than what you will get from outside. On if the government comes in with some tax incentives for you, then your product can be far cheaper. So you don't need to build everything here in Ghana, but the initial stages you have to, so that your turnaround time based on customer feedback can be very fast, so that you can quickly move to the stage where you can sell or you have a commercially acceptable product.
No, that's good. Jordan, how you balance um, most Africans? Again, I have my perception of what I think they prefer. Like when I'm in Ghana, I notice that they want the iPhone, they want the latest from the US, from China, and they don't look at stuff that are homegrown or home built as quality, right? How do you balance that patriotic feeling of wanting to get something that's built in your own home versus wanting the latest from the U.S. or China? Or when it comes to taxi and stuff like that, those things don't really matter. People just want the cheapest vehicle possible.
Yeah, people want the most affordable vehicle possible. So I don't think it's the customer side on. I mean, trying to control the customer that buy it because it's made in Ghana or Africa. It really works unless the policy is very strong on the top, which sometimes people say that it's unfair market practice. So a government, you need to be very tactical about this, or even as innovators and as businessmen, entrepreneurs, we need to be very, very tactical about that. Your main aim is to make sure that you're able to deliver quality for the value that you are trying to give out to. I mean, you need to provide some sort of value. So it could be value, could be affordable, or value in terms of quality, or in terms of specification, in terms of design, a superior product, so that people will make their decision on a superior product. Yes, in our part of our world, given all things being the same, people are very, very, very price sensitive. So if you are really going to build here in the market on, you need to have that as a very core thing to consider. People will be willing to not have one backlight at the end of the car if you reduce it by $100 for them. so, so you should know how crazy it can get on when it comes to price sensitivity. So you need to make sure that you are designing to meet the aspiration of the African. And that is for us part of our main team, that we are designing a product to meet the aspiration of the modern African, which include in our context here in Ghana, the affordability, that it need to be affordable compared to the other product that come to the market. And so we started that journey early. We had about 5 pillars that we were embarking on to achieve an affordable vehicle, that it will be more affordable than any other vehicle that you bring from any part of the world, and it will be very quality in terms of the quality to be strong, the quality to be strong in that perspective. Also, not sacrificing the quality for affordability necessarily, but build something that is achieve the quality and also very, very affordable. And we have a pathway that we have been following, and I think we can get there.
So, George, you named it solar taxi. Is it strictly taxis, or you plan to branch out into other electrical vehicles?
So we get that question a lot. That's why I was laughing. Uh, yeah, no, it's not strictly taxis. I mean, the early days, the prototype that we built were taxi based. So that is where it came from. And because the electric vehicle was not known by almost everybody, having something like solar, then the taxi name was easy to connect it as not your ordinary car, and potentially it's an electric vehicle. So I think that is where it came from. But yes, because the initial product we focus more on the taxi service, it's something that stick with it. So for us, I think we have been going with it. It's acceptable by people, but also we are looking at the opportunity to have other different type of vehicles. Some very soon, some form of branding that can come through. And it was also easy to connect because we're entering into a market that was quite novel. And as the first mover in the market, we had to find a name that can connect with the people. So we know the complications of people is assuming easy that is a taxi business. Uh, but then also the opportunity of easy connection was something that was too good not to take. So we thought it was quite easy for us to start that way, build on it, and then being able to easily communicate our product to the audience that we're looking at. So that's how we started on now. So sometimes people ask, oh, why solar taxi? Because now we don't do only taxi, we sell our vehicles, we assemble our vehicles. So people then ask about that. But I think we have worked out on that in the going phase of the company. We have been able to make some couple of branding separation within the businesses. So we do have different aspects of the business now.
George, I read that nearly 90% of your workforce are women, engineers that are, assembling these electric vehicles in Ghana. That doesn't sound like a diversity statistics to me. It sounds more like a deliberate choice. Is there a reason why, and what has that meant for your business in ways that people can expect?
Yeah, sure. You're right. It was quite deliberate. So when we started the journey, in the first phase of the pilot, when we're just doing engagements and trying to understand the market that we are moving ourselves into, once that became clear was that the market lacked, how should I call that? There wasn't the participation of female in the value chain of the transportation sector apart from sitting in a vehicle and using, if you look at assembling, design, engineering, maintenance, women were not involved. So we took upon ourselves that, okay, you know what? If we are going to change the narrative of transportation in Africa, we think that we can also do that by changing the narrative of women participation in the sector. So it was too good opportunity to take. And since the news area, news sector, we could afford to train people to come through that direction. Train people to pick it up as a career, something they want to pursue. So we went with that. We did a couple of investment in that space, established our female engineering academy, dedicated in training women over a period of 6 months for them to join our engineering team. And we did that successfully. We account for a huge number of women that have been trained and now working at other places, not just on our taxi, by us as electric vehicle engineers. So yeah, it was a very deliberate investment that we did.
George, can you talk to me about some of the challenges you face with this process, right? I'm sure you've went through a lot with, even the bureaucracy, some of the legal system. Like, how have you maneuvered those challenges? What are some of those challenges you face, and how have you overcome those challenges in starting a business in Ghana?
Yeah, I mean, the challenges were quite a lot. To be honest with you, with such a novel thing that we're doing, we were always born to face challenges in different stages of the business. I think one of some of the early part of it is getting policymakers or regulators to understand the product. We went from trying, doing our best to make sure that, say something like the customs, right? When we bring in parts or bring in vehicles, then they didn't have these vehicles in their system. They have a particular expectation of a vehicle model that they were looking at. And it is not in the system because then if you are going to clear a vehicle, you need to enter the full size, the size of the engine and more other thing. But then our vehicle didn't have engine, so then early days trying to get them into the system was a very big challenge. I have to put honest about that there. But then we were able to get the regulators to work with them to understand what we're trying to do, the kind of vehicle that we're working with. So gradually we were able to get regulators to come through. And registration of the vehicle itself was a big challenge because of some of the information they are used to the old vehicle information. So that is something I work with. Then we have to deal with insurance. Insurance was difficult to get a product for it because then people don't understand the product. Insurance, if they don't understand the product, they don't want to sell to you or they'll sell to you at a very high cost. And I think that is something that we have experienced. It has not reduced yet, though, but we are hoping that it gets better going forward for people to understand electric vehicle are less risky compared to the full type of vehicle in terms of maintenance, in terms of other things. So that can bring the premium down. But that was a problem that we experienced in the early days. So then there was this issue about maintenance. We have to be able to learn our own maintenance, provide our own services. So instead of growing, I shall call it vertically, we're doing a lot of horizontal growth to be able to provide the ecosystem support for our adapters because there's nobody else in the value chain providing some form of service that otherwise we don't need to. Then there was the finance in the banking side, the banking and finance. We need banking and finance to grow. We can't do it all on our own, but that was a big challenge. So we have to build business model, invest in building data, go back to convince the bankers for them to support us. It was a big, 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 big challenge. I have to be honest with that. But at least we're able to have some success a little bit on that. We got the central bank rejecting a project because then they have not classified EVs as an essential industry or something of that sort. So we couldn't get the funding that we are looking for at that time, which was a very big blow to us. So these were some challenges that we have to across policy, across markets. We're trying to get into that space. Yeah.
George, can you also talk about other challenges such as, let's say, infrastructure, right? Roads are a big deal in Ghana and Africa as a whole. With electrical vehicles, you need, power reliability, a place where people could charge the electrical cars. How are you dealing with those challenges as far as the roads, the power reliability, and being able to charge these electrical vehicles?
Sure. I mean, we start from road. Road is not something that we can do much about because we are not government, so no, we don't do that. But what we did, what we did was that we keep on learning from how our vehicles were performing on road. and then we're translating that into to the performance of the vehicle. Yeah, so in the designing of the vehicle. So next time we go to our partners that we want to get new batch of vehicles, we give them different design. Okay, we want to change this, want to change that, want to change this, we can add this one to it and all that. But all this was to allow us to adapt to the road. So that is what we did. A lot of that in the initial phases. And now our products are getting better. Or now people are even tap into the knowledge that we are then established on. Then also on the charging side, I mean, we were deterred by a lot of people questioning whether Africa has a charging station. But I've had this strong belief, and my team, I have to put it that way, to have had this belief that we don't think that Africa has to go the way of Europe or US by building a lot of charging stations for to grow the market. Then yes, it is good, but there's a different route on. So we believe in more phone charging. So we focus on selling our products based on the premise of installing a charger for you in your house or in your workplace, and that is what we did with that building infrastructure first. So we did that to sell most of our vehicles by focusing on them, people then being able to uh, um, have a charger in their house and charge their vehicle in their house. And so that is what we did. We have been doing that for some time now, and so far so good. So even though there are public charging stations coming through, deal with that. There's issue of electricity. Yes, Ghana is a bit more stable than most African countries. But then I think we do have a long-term solution towards that, and that's something we are working towards it ourselves on. But also fundamentally, even we come to fuel petrol, there's also sometimes can be shortage of fuel and petrols also. But the good news is in Ghana is that lights don't stay out unless there's a huge fault. They don't stay out for more than 6 hours to 12 hours. And in most of these vehicles, when you charge them, you can use them for almost a week without charging during an intra-city trips. So the agency of constant needing a form of power to charge sometimes is a bit minimal unless you don't plan so well. But in within 12 hours, worst case scenario in Ghana, you will get back your power. So the risk of going like a day without having power, that's it. But we advise, since most of the home chargers is low current or low powered, we advise that every single day if you can charge it when you.
George, can you talk about the numbers a little bit? Like, what are you seeing as far as numbers with this company, right? See, I'm in the diaspora, I'm in the U.S., and I want to come to Ghana and start my own electrical car business. What are those numbers looking like? If you're comfortable to discuss.
Well, I mean, right now I think the market is at the, I shall call it, it's very competitive. We are not the only players in the market now. So the market is very competitive. Ghana, on the average, sell nothing less than 100,000 cars a year, right? And almost 70%, 80% of that car is second-hand vehicles. It's not that people don't want new vehicles on, but that is what they can get because then you didn't have so many original, I shall call it, dealership for most of the brands here. It's recently that we have some of them coming through. So then people result in getting a lot of secondhand and all that. So the market is there, over 100,000 vehicles a year. That's the minimum. People have numbers that goes beyond that anyway. But if you have such a number, we can look at the market on. So I think the number is good. The market is ready for it. I think what the market is wanting more of that is we're doing more financing opportunities for that. So we kind of currently we have a platform where we allow individuals to be able to provide financing for people that want to own electric vehicles directly, and then on a month-to-month basis, you get your money being paid to you directly. What we do the collection on your behalf, because the financing has been the block that are preventing moving this huge number of people that want cars to be actually be customers on. So that is kind of what we are doing, providing that opportunity for that financing level. So yes, the numbers looks pretty good on that basis. And even if you are doing 10% of the market to begin with, that is a very good number to look at. So yeah.
Yeah. How much does each of these vehicle cost, George?
On the average, the minimum vehicle on the selling point will be about nothing less than 20,000 US dollars.
No, that's good numbers right there. And I guess you could finance it if there's an opportunity to finance it or just buy it outright. Are they at dealerships right now, or they have to contact you directly to get these vehicles?
So when I got to contact us directly, as I mentioned on what we are trying to bring the financing option to the people. So we are kind of finding we have a platform now that allow people to access financing option on, and so both individual investors, institutional investors can then partner with us. We call them finance partners. And then when people apply that they want a vehicle, they review the application, accept the application, provide the funding, we provide a vehicle and help with the month-to-month collection payment pattern. People could be making about 20% to 24%. So between 8 and 24%, you could be making that.
George, so you built a drone in 2013 before Ghanaians even knew what a drone was. You started Solar Taxi when the idea of assembly EVs locally in Ghana sounded impossible. What's next for you, and what are you working on now? What are you thinking about that? In 10 years, people are gonna be like, "Oh, George saw this coming." Like, what's next on your plate?
So I think for us, we have always seen it's not necessarily about the technology. I think that's something I believe that we have held for a very long time that we don't think it's necessarily about the technology. It's about the value that it creates for people. Technology is actually impactful when it's stay away from the life of the people. So basically, focus on the value. We have always seen ourselves as a mobility company, an e-mobility company. It's not just the current vehicle that we are using. We're looking at how do we move people and goods from point A to point B in the most efficient, green, clean, affordable manner. So that opens us to a number of things that we could be doing going forward on, and that's where I focus on. This is just the beginning. We need to start from somewhere, build on the knowledge. You need to acquire the technology in terms of the knowledge, how to build the technology, how to work the technology. When you have that, you're able to then localize the technology in serving the needs of your people, serving the needs of your community, serving the needs of your target audience. So that's basically what we have in mind there. So that opens us in terms of what we can do for mobility to be very wide. We are not just selling cars or selling bikes. No, it's a type of transportation, it's a type of mobility. We are looking at general mobility solutions. So, yeah, I don't want to overstate stuff though, but it kind of give you a fair idea that our ambition goes just beyond providing cars. That one, any retailer can do that. People can sit in here in Ghana and import vehicle from China, US, and do that. No, we are moving beyond that. We want to understand the core technology, build on the core technology, and adapt it in a way that it solves or meet the aspiration of the modern African. The way they want to move, the way they want to move goods and products, by land, by sea, by air, whatever it is, and that how we want to move. That is what we are looking at. It's quite broad in that perspective.
You seem very motivated, right? You seem very motivated by trying to change Africa, by trying to change mobility and how people move around in Ghana and also Africa as a whole. What exactly is it that motivates you outside of the trying to help change Africa? What else motivates you to keep going and keep pushing forward?
Personally, I think that is the adrenaline of solving problems every single day that I've got accustomed to. But it's just the belief that it is possible, and you see it, and you are fighting to make it real. Some of these things are things that we saw years ago, as vision or as ideas, and you are motivated despite all the challenges that you go through. You are motivated to find ways of bringing that idea to bear. And I think that is where the fulfillment comes through. So we're looking at that say the central theme of this is what it can be, and that of what it can be is what is pushing you on to bring it to bear. Is that energy.
Another question I read real quickly. It sounds like Solar Taxi has already secured a contract to supply electrical buses to Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire. So you're not just operating in Ghana anymore. You're actually trying to expand internationally on the continent. What is that process like as far as expanding? Where do you see solar taxi being in the next couple of years?
Well, definitely, yeah. I mean, we want to produce for the African. So, as we mentioned, we are looking at expanding and beyond the shores of Ghana, South African market. We have had products in Nigeria, in Abidjan, in Togo, Burkina Faso. We are looking at building more better footprint. But it because it's a connected market, so we have the aftermarket we stand an advantage of being able to sell our product once again more affordable than most people get in a different market. So basically, I think that's what we are aiming at, being able to sell across the African market. So we having an assembly plant here in Ghana is actually meant to serve the continent because it now becomes like a single connected market.
Before I get to my last final questions, right, George, I just want to ask you: is there anything important that you think we should have discussed today that we haven't discussed that folks listening might want to hear about more?
I will say that I think that Africa presents some of the best opportunities because that's some of the best challenges also. And this is where the real impact and real change can be made on. We can take anything and then make it work. Yeah, the frustrations are there, the challenges are there on, but the same way too is very rewarding. I could have been. I mean, that was initially my plan. I could have been in the States. Just had a couple of scholarships and all that, and I wanted to be honest with you. But then I also know that this is where my greatest impact as a person could be felt on. And I could change a lot of lives. With the little that we have done, we have touched almost lives of like let's say 15,000 lives that we have been able to touch
Incredible.
of various people through our programs, to what we do and all that. So if you look at that, that means the impact that we could achieve is huge. So I just want to tell folks out there, Africa is the place to be. It's not just by words, by action, because the opportunity is great over here. So you can pick anything and make it work. Pick a successful model that works in the States and then make it work on. That's what we are doing. We are trying to build uh, um, how vehicle acquisition is in the States. They can drive to a dealership and get a car the same day. In Ghana, it takes you 6 months or so to get a car. We want to change that. And the same way, I believe a lot of the sectors, the people can change that in terms of the inefficiency. So that's what I would say.
We talk a lot about investing in opportunities. Let me talk about a different kind of investment for a second. Your health is your highest return on investment. That's why I created a brand called Bow Action. We make Vestly Pro adjustable weighted vest, currently on Amazon. The vest adds up to 35 pounds to your body weight, including wrist and ankle weights. If you're serious about investing in your health and not just your portfolio, and you want to support this channel and what we're building, please check out the link in the description below. Every purchase goes directly into keeping these conversations going. Thank you very much for your support. Jorge, I'm going to get into my rapid fire questions. I don't know if you're aware of them. I'm going to ask you these questions quickly, just whatever pops in your head, respond to it, and then we'll take it from there. If we need to elaborate on certain things, we will. What is your biggest win so far?
Transforming lives, giving hope to people. Yeah, the hope part. I think that has been my biggest win. I come from nothing. Come from the first in my family to go to university. School in a very rural area. I had a chance to go to school. It was a struggle. Never had a laptop through my days of university. I was doing electrical engineering. Have to find ways of doing all those courses. But then being able to provide laptops for many, being able to give opportunity for many, being able to support many on. I think it's through our action, people have a hope of what it can be. And we see that a lot. People come across and they're like, oh, I was able to do this because of that. There's this story of once once I was a teaching assistant on a university campus. I was one going back to my hostel, and I was walking by the street. There's this young girl running after me, stopping me to talk to her. And I stop, and it's like, oh. don't you remember me? And I'm like, no, I don't. It's like, oh, 4 years ago, so 3 years ago, he came to our school to come and do a science fair. I was part of it. And I was inspired as a lady then to become an engineer. So now I'm at the university now. I'm pursuing engineering because of that. And you move to TS, that with the little actions that you are doing, it is inspiring people to pursue something. And I think we have achieved that a lot in various areas from IoT, Internet of Things. We started our program. We started drones programs. We started artificial intelligence programs. We started biotech. We started all these things were things to create hope for people that it is possible. And then with those that don't know have any place to anyone to look up to, by giving them the skills, by giving them the opportunity, people now start believing in themselves. And that was the greatest transformation of our programs. And then what we do is that people develop self belief after going through. Yes, maybe its innovation might not scale up as a huge startup, but they leave the program with self belief that I can do it or I'm worth it. I can solve my problems. And I think that goes beyond any form of impact. So to me, that would be the greatest. Yeah.
Excellent. Biggest mistake.
A number of them, because I think I have been able to move fast because of mistakes that I do. I always tell people the difference between me and most people that at a young age, people don't believe my age when I tell them actually. 'Cause in my early 30s, very early 30s, um, at a young age, I've done so many mistakes. And that's the only reason why I am a bit ahead, right? Because I've done so many mistakes, right? So there's a lot of mistakes out there. I would say one of it would be not growing too fast. um that has to be very important. Not growing too fast. You should be able to manage your growth. Stick to building the core structures of what you are doing. And that is very important. I mean, I've been through the phase of building and trying to scale. I've seen that part. Selling your first 100, I've seen that part. I've seen selling your first 200. But to sell 1,000, to sell 2 million, to sell that, you need to be very cautious about your growth. So I think I've learned that a lot of how to manage growth. It's one of the big killers. We don't talk about it often. For a lot of young, promising businesses. We talk about growing, getting capital to grow, but we don't talk about managing the growth itself. And we need more support in that for our innovators, entrepreneurs, and businesses. And then maybe one a bonus on that will also be on in terms of being able to maybe it's connected to the growth somehow, if I should put it that way. But the structures they're connected to it on that there. For so what I'll put it all at managing your growth
Right.
and managing your growth. I think most of the things I can talk about will be about managing your growth. You need to ensure that you have the structures put in place. It's a different phase. The same person that it took me to build the early stage of the company is going to require a total different person to build that. Yes, we don't have so much mentorship here. So a lot of things we need to go through it the hard way. But managing your growth is critical. I made mistakes around that. So yeah.
So if you had 10,000 to invest in Africa today, where would it go?
10,000 is going to be biased though, but I will invest in getting a car for somebody. There's so many people that want a vehicle. You make it almost 20 between 18 to 24 plus interest, annual interest on that. So that's a lot of money that you'll be making on a month-to-month basis, on a year-to-year basis. But then also the other promising areas that you can look at too. I would say content creating or the entertainment industry. I think why so? I think we have a lot of gifted Africans that are looking for opportunity to do so much, and they can do so much. We are very unique in how we create content, and I see the content industry. Yes, we don't get same kind of access or payment and all that as maybe from other places. But then content creation is one of the ways to go. Can invest in. young, brilliant content creators that will find a way of monetizing their content as a manager or something of that sort based in US. Just like the music industry, how it has now become on. So you're able to distribute their content. I think there's a lot of money that you'll be sitting on. A lot of money because some people can generate content in million views in minutes and hours. So that is crazy. Some can generate 100 million views and 200 million views, right? And with the right support, little investment, don't need mad. Buy camera, buy this thing on. You should be able to have a group of content creators that you'll be making a lot of money from together with them. Yeah.
One thing that needs to change for Africa to reach its potential.
The mindset. The mindset is everything. Right. The mindset. I would say hope, but the mindset is the foundation to the hope. We need to touch on the mindset of what we can do. And that will help to change all the other things that I could mention, but it's the mind. Whatever you believe, that is who you are. So if you believe you can do it,
Do you think Africa can ever unite?
the approach might be unique on its own way. I am not somebody that is, I don't try to stick into one way of achieving progress. And progress in itself is progressive. So, in a way that, as they say, change is the only thing, you need to consider that is subject to change. It might not be that we might need to build a United States of Africa. Might not be so, even though it is a clear path that we see other people have pursued and prosper. But there may be other ways of doing it. There's some practical things that need to be done, like free movement, among other things, or even currency. Do we need to use the same currency? People have different philosophy about that or different ideas about that, that we don't need to because of digital money, stable coins, and all those things that might come into the market. You might not need to. You might not need to create one central bank to manage all those things on and build huge people myself organize in its own way. Because we'll say, hey, we don't know the future of money, to be honest with you. So yes, Africa can progress on. African unity is needed, but I don't know. I can't predict how that will be achieved. But I'm definitely very sure and convinced that it is a phase of our life, and Africa is going to prosper. It's the normal phase that everybody went through. In our own way, we are also going to go through.
My last question, George, is what I call the bridge, right? Where I like my guests to leave a specific resource, a specific contact, an opportunity for the audience listening, right? That they could actually utilize, say next week or today, to change their life around and start investing in Africa or start looking at Africa as a place to invest. What is that one thing you want to leave on the bridge?
I mean, like I said, we have a great platform that people can go there and then be able to finance vehicles for people here in Africa. Right from $10,000 to $20,000, you can business a vehicle, make about 18 to 24% per annum on that. So that's a great investment opportunity for the next 5 years. You'll be making that money that is returning double the amount that you'll be investing into it. So that is a great opportunity. But I'll revert back also to the content creating. That the creative industry in Africa is one of the largest on top opportunity of music, from movies, or acting, and now from social media content creation. I think it's one of the on top of Nigerians have done so amazing. It's wonderful talent all across the continent. So we need talent managers, people that want to invest into talent to look at it. And it doesn't cost much to invest in someone to be able to generate if you know how to monetize the content. So if you know people that can monetize the content, then Africa is one of the biggest on top part of it that you can take advantage of for monetization of content, and then you make a good amount of money back on. So I will bet to that.
That's excellent. I think it's a great point you made with the investing in a vehicle and getting your return at such point. I'm definitely going to link your information in the description below so that folks can reach out to make that investment. George, I can't thank you enough for what you do for the continent. I can't thank you enough for what you do for our people. Thank you so much for investing your time, your life, lessons or your life learnings throughout, your career and trying to build something for Africa and trying to make a change. It's people like you that make a huge difference to the continent. Most of us are here in the States and we're watching from back home, and you had an opportunity to come here and live here and live an amazing life with your education and your experience, right? But instead you chose to go back home and make a change and make a difference. So for that, I want to say thank you very much.